Dzień dobry Państwu.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my intention to present to you the key points of my paper. So first, let us look at the concept that I wanted to share today with you. So this is again an interpretation of history, and it is about our way to defining it.
Że historia architektury współczesnej, z którą obcujemy, czyli ta historia,
I am aware that the history of contemporary architecture, that is the architecture after the end of World War II, is the chronicle of the times, and we are aware of that. We have that knowledge. Well, obviously, we can be also saying that this is a process that somehow carries with it certain elements, signs, symbols that are the evidence of the passage of time. And we have that awareness that these are signum tempori, signs of time, and they manifest themselves in architectural details, which can be then found in museum halls and in exhibition rooms. And such interpretation of history, it takes place in so many various locations, and for decades these are locations or places that gather elements that come together with the architectural creation. And well, obviously we should be also aware here that this is a certain question or a question mark. Can we say that this is an interpretation of modern aspects, or are these considerations of a concept or a design which is visionary, or is there a question, so to say, a question about potential definition of these elements? So here we have that summary of the perspective. So first, we have this temple, the shrine of art that invites us to enter. Let me but first focus on some elements that can be found in this immense collection. So each element becomes a unique invitation to a debate. In the search of for truth, that well, in this process, this is the truth of made of glass and steel. So in this case, this is a very characteristic building and landmark of New York, which is the UN headquarters, the seat of a multinational team, Le Corbusier and Oscar Niemeyer worked, designed it, and this is an iconic building. More than 10 years ago, that building had to undergo metamorphosis, and what has been cut out of it is shown as an element of contemporary history. And now the question is whether the element in that metal facade is a truth of a kind, or is it an element which answers a question about the essence. Can we speak here about the truth and about presenting untrue history? Recently, there was a film in this section. The curator of that section, practically every glass element of the facade has history imprinted on it.
znaleźć
So now
także
the question
inne
is whether we can
artefakty
find
z tego
such
samego,
elements in other artifacts
wydziału związanego z
dating back
architekturą
to that
współczesną. Oczywiście
splendid
przenosimy
chapter
się
of
o kilkadziesiąt lat
contemporary
w kierunku współczesności
architecture. Obviously,
teraz staramy się
we can
prawdę za
go
pomocą
a
akrylu.
few decades
Akryl,
towards
fantastyczny budynek
contemporary time.
autorstwa
So
tym
here
razem
again we have this
szwajcarskiego duetu Herzog-de-Meuron. I to
building
jest budynek
designed by Herzog de
fabryki
Maroc. This is the
Ricola.
building of
Wykorzystujemy
Ricola, building
fragment
of factory.
roślinnej
It uses
dekoracji,
items of plant
z twórczości Karla Grossfelda.
decoration
Tutaj
from
widzicie
Karl
państwo po
Grossfeld's
prawej stronie kilka z jego fotografii
works.
oraz
On the right
rzetelny
side, you
liść
can see some
elewacji,
photographs
na
made
elewacji
by
fabryki,
him, and on the
fotografia
factory facade,
wykonana przez Margaritę Spilutini.
there is a
Fantastyczną
photograph
austriacką
made
fotografkę,
by
która
Margarita
uwieczniła wiele
Spiritini,
budynków tej
who
firmy.
is
I
a
teraz powstaje
fantastic
pytanie,
Austrian
czy ten
photographer
liść
who decorated many buildings like that. So the question is whether the leaf multiplied with this acrylic facade is the truth, or is that a partial element or a complete element? We're talking about just a
nie robi już takiego wrażenia jak wcześniejsza
of the
fotografia.
facade.
Jest po prostu elementem. Jest
This is
elementem,
just an
który
element. It's not
został
as
wycięty
impressive as
tak
this
jakby
photograph
elementów,
showed
jakim jest
a few moments ago. This is just a part
kolejnym,
of the building.
Kolejnym punktem
Then the
mamy,
next point
pojawia nam się ten kolejny punkt, prawda zapisana w chromie. Oczywiście, jeżeli
so that is the truth contained in chromatic art. So speaking about chromatic art, we need to go back to the 1920s and 1930s, and here we have the key, the pinnacle of that period. The interior of the Mies van der Rohe Barcelona pavilion, going back to 1920s, 1930s. So here we have this metal where chromatic column, beautiful form, splendid concept of that element, but we can still be under the impression that the exposition of the element in the space of the museum, which is a far cry from the reality of the building, is a certain lie, or perhaps just uttered sign or symbol of today's time out of context. Then we have the truth contained in porcelain. So here again we go back to the MoMA, but the truth here is not that straightforward or unambiguous, because it is manifested and in a very different context. We have again a group of these incredible architects, Denis Scott-Brown and Denis Scott-Brown and Venturi. So this is the building. Here we see a fragment of a porcelain emerald cladding panel featuring flower motifs for the best product catalog showroom building, Langhorne, Pennsylvania. That concept became extremely fashionable after it was modernized, and whatever was left that went to the New York Museum and other institutions. So here we have some fragments of the porcelain enameled steel panels showing the quality in the MoMA collection. Well, this panel gives a very distinguished impression, and actually indicates this the direction of defining such details, which are quite contemporary and modern in expression.
pewnego rodzaju takim lapidarium
So
nowoczesności.
that was the lapidarium of modernity, the lapidarium seen through the prism of various elements. Some of these elements are very modern and up to date, and there are also some elements where the truth is more hidden because it is present at many levels. We can say that the elements which are presented here, historical artifacts, they allowed us to follow the certain path or certain route taken by the architectural sincerity.
Element powstał. Jeżeli popatrzymy na to lapidarium,
if we look at this lapidarium of modernity from the MoMA collection, on the one hand, this is a creative effort that diagnoses an unavoidable nature of something that we cannot reconcile with in our life or in architecture, and that is the passage of time. Well, the passage of time always re-emerges as a motto at the very start of a search. But obviously, the fragments, they were quite remarkable in the history of contemporary art, and one should be and is aware that when watching, looking at the architecture in certain sequences, we cannot talk about a set or a collection of porcelain or plastic objects. But we can also say that when detached or seen separately from their native building, they're not as valuable and they're differently defined. As it is the case in the period of searching for new ideas, we're trying to create lapidaria that we could associate with the ancient times. And here we created in a lapidarium of modernity, of modern achievements at the moment. Has that concept been impacted by the crisis? In a certain way, to a certain extent, it has, because this way we can create new ideas and develop new concepts, and we can create it and redefine it from a totally different angle that we have done so far. And modernity and the crisis, well, we are looking forward to seeing them creating or melting into a new platform for a new way of thinking. I thank you very much